There is a number the IRS already knows about your checking account, not the balance you see when you log in, not the number on your last bank statement, a different number, one that has been quietly sitting inside a federal reporting system since the last time your balance crossed a specific threshold, and in 2026, that threshold is being enforced more aggressively than at any point in the last 2 decades. If your checking account regularly holds more than a certain amount, you are not just losing money to inflation every single month. You are generating compliance flags inside a system that shares data with the IRS, the Department of Justice, and more than 400 federal, state, and local agencies. And here is the part that will genuinely surprise you. You do not have to do anything wrong for this to happen. You simply have to keep too much money in the wrong kind of account. Welcome to Finance Explained. Hit like and subscribe right now. Now let us talk about what is actually happening. There is a retired woman in Ohio. She worked in education for over 30 years. She has a pension, a paid-off car, and a savings account she has been building since her late 20s. Last spring, her mother passed away in Phoenix. As the only surviving child, she was named executor of the estate, after the house sold and the remaining assets were liquidated. A wire transfer of just over $41,000 landed in her personal checking account at her local community bank. The money was legitimate. It was documented. It was inheritance. She had every right to receive it. She planned to hold it for a few months while she figured out how to properly invest it. Within 9 days of that deposit arriving, her bank filed a suspicious activity report with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. She was never told. She is legally not allowed to be told. She found out 11 months later when she applied for a home equity line of credit and a compliance hold appeared on her file during the application review. A 63-year-old retired school administrator with a spotless financial history now has a federal compliance flag attached to her name because she received an inheritance and left it sitting in a checking account. That flag will remain in the federal database for 5 years. Every financial transaction she makes during that period is automatically cross-referenced against her file. This is not a story about a criminal. It is not a story about someone who made a mistake. It is a story about someone who did not know where the line was. And in 2026, that line is sitting at a lower point than most Americans realize. Here is the baseline rule that most people have at least heard of. Under the Bank Secrecy Act, any cash deposit, withdrawal, or transfer that exceeds $10,000 in a single business day requires your bank to file a currency transaction report with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network within 15 business days. That report includes your full legal name, your social security number, your date of birth, your home address, the exact transaction amount, the type of transaction, and the precise time it occurred. You will never receive a copy of that report. The bank is legally prohibited from informing you it was filed. The information moves directly into a federal database shared between the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Department of Homeland Security, and hundreds of additional agencies at every level of government. Once your name enters that database, it stays there for 5 years. Every subsequent financial transaction you make is automatically run against your existing file. But here is what most people do not understand. The $10,000 rule is not the rule that catches ordinary Americans. The rule that actually catches ordinary Americans has no dollar threshold at all. It is called a suspicious activity report, and it can be filed on a transaction of any size: $20, $200, $2,000. The decision to file does not depend on how much money was involved. It depends entirely on whether your transaction matches a behavioral pattern that your bank's internal compliance software flags as unusual. The bank has 30 days from the flagged transaction to complete its review and file the report. You will not be informed either way. You have no legal right to know. And if any bank employee tells you a report was filed, that employee has committed a federal crime carrying up to 5 years in federal prison. That is why your banker will never mention it. That is why the teller who seems hesitant and asks you to wait a moment before processing your withdrawal says nothing when they return. They legally cannot. The incentive structure inside these institutions makes the situation even more tilted. A bank that files a suspicious activity report incorrectly faces zero regulatory penalty. A bank that fails to file a report when it should have faces millions of dollars in potential fines, and the compliance officers responsible can lose their professional licenses permanently. When the cost of inaction is severe and the cost of action is zero, the behavior becomes predictable. File first. Ask questions never. And if your account balance is large enough to make any single transaction look unusual relative to your normal pattern, you have already entered the zone where these decisions are being made about your money right now. Here is the part that most people never think about until it is too late. The $10,000 rule, the one that gets talked about on financial news and social media, is actually not the mechanism that creates the most risk for ordinary Americans in 2026. The rule that creates the most risk has no dollar threshold at all. And understanding the difference between these two systems is the most important financial literacy topic most people will never hear from their bank. In fiscal year 2023, U.S. financial institutions filed approximately 4.6 million suspicious activity reports with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. That number has been climbing every single year, and the overwhelming majority of those reports were not filed on drug dealers or fraudsters. They were filed on regular account holders whose transaction patterns on a perfectly normal day happened to match a behavioral signature inside a compliance algorithm. The structuring trap is where this gets genuinely dangerous for people who have done absolutely nothing wrong. Structuring is defined under Title 31 of the United States Code, Section 5324, as deliberately breaking up transactions to avoid triggering the $10,000 reporting threshold, and here is the critical piece that most people do not understand. You do not have to intend to avoid the threshold. You do not have to know the law exists. If your transactions happen to fit the pattern, the law applies to you. The Institute for Justice, a public interest law firm, reviewed IRS data and found that from 2005 to 2012, the IRS seized more than $242 million across more than 2,500 cases involving suspected structuring violations, and the number of annual seizures grew fivefold over that same period. What made those numbers genuinely disturbing was not the size. It was the fact that in case after case, the people whose money was taken were never charged with any underlying crime. The money was gone, the account was frozen, and the owner had to hire attorneys and fight in federal court just to get back funds they had earned legally. Congress has been aware of this problem for years. Earlier this year in 2026, Congressman Tim Walberg and Congressman Jamie Raskin introduced the Fifth Amendment Integrity Restoration Act, a bipartisan bill specifically designed to reform the IRS structuring statute and protect small business owners from having their accounts seized without proof of criminal wrongdoing. The fact that bipartisan legislation to fix this problem is still being introduced in 2026 tells you everything you need to know about whether the problem has been solved. It has not, and until it is, the risk sits in the gap between what the law says and what ordinary account holders understand about how it is applied. Here is the practical picture of what this means for someone managing a checking account balance above $25,000. Your bank's compliance software is not reading your intentions. It is running pattern recognition against your transaction history. A large deposit that deviates from your baseline triggers a flag. A wire transfer from an account that has never sent wires before triggers a flag. Deposits made just under the $10,000 threshold on consecutive days trigger a flag. A third party making a deposit on your behalf triggers a flag. Round number withdrawals near the reporting limit trigger a flag. The software does not ask why. It identifies the pattern and alerts the compliance team. The compliance officer then makes a judgment call with an asymmetric set of consequences. File the report and face zero penalty if the flag was a false positive. Do not file and face millions of dollars in regulatory fines if it turns out the flag was legitimate. Every rational compliance officer in every American bank files the report. It is the only decision the incentive structure supports. Now here is the second dimension of this problem, and this is the one that does not require any federal involvement at all. Right now, as of 2026, the average national interest rate on a standard checking account is approximately 0.07% annually. That figure comes directly from current banking data. The average savings account does slightly better at around 0.39%, but inflation is currently running at approximately 3% per year. Do the math on that. If you are holding $50,000 in a checking account earning 0.07%, you are generating about $35 in interest over the course of a year. Meanwhile, that same $50,000 is losing $1,500 of purchasing power annually to inflation. The balance on your screen does not change, but the real value of every dollar in that account is declining every single month, quietly and without any notice from your bank. At the same time, your bank is taking the money you deposited and lending it out at rates between 7 and 12%. That is the core business model of retail banking. You deposit the money, they hold a fraction in reserve, they lend the rest, they earn the spread, you earn nothing meaningful. Finance Explained has covered this. Dynamic across multiple videos, and the math never improves from the depositor's side. The only thing that changes is how many years the depositor spends losing ground before deciding to look for a better option. And what most people discover when they finally do look is that the better options have existed for years. They simply were not in a bank's interest to advertise them. So here is the question that actually matters. If keeping more than $25,000 in a conventional checking account is simultaneously generating compliance exposure, losing purchasing power to inflation, and funding your bank's lending operation at rates you will never benefit from, where does that money actually belong? The answer is not complicated. It is not risky. It does not require a financial advisor or a minimum investment of $100,000. The accounts that do this job better exist right now are federally insured or backed by the U.S. government and are open to any American with a social security number, a driver's license, and about 10 minutes of time. The gap between what most people earn on their idle savings and what they could be earning is not small. It is the difference between 0.07% and 4% on $100,000. That difference is approximately $3,900 in a single year, on a balance held for 20 years, the compounded difference is genuinely life-changing, and not one bank teller in America is going to walk you through this voluntarily. The first and most accessible alternative is a high-yield online savings account. As of today, May 21, 2026, the best high-yield savings accounts available to ordinary Americans are paying up to 4.1% APY from institutions like Citibank, and certain accounts from Vero Money are offering up to 5% under specific deposit conditions, compared to the FDIC's recorded national average of just 0.38% on standard savings accounts. That is not a rounding error. That is roughly 10 times more interest on the exact same dollar, with the exact same federal deposit insurance protection up to $250,000 per depositor. These are not obscure institutions. They are FDIC-insured online banks that have been operating for years. The money transfers between your online savings account and your primary checking account in 1 to 3 business days. There are no monthly fees. There are no minimum balance requirements at most of these institutions. The Federal Reserve held its benchmark rate steady at a target range of 3.5 to 3.75% at its April 29th meeting this year, which means these rates have stabilized rather than continuing to fall. The window for locking in competitive yields is not unlimited, but it remains open right now. The second option, and the one that most financial professionals use for their own liquid reserves, is United States Treasury bills purchased directly through treasurydirect.gov, which is the official website of the United States Department of the Treasury. Treasury bills are short-term government obligations backed by the full faith and credit of the federal government. They are available in maturities of 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 13 weeks, 26 weeks, and 52 weeks. You purchase them at a discount and receive the face value at maturity. The critical structural advantage for Americans in higher tax states is that Treasury bill interest is exempt from state and local income taxes. If you live in California, New York, Oregon, Hawaii, or any other high-tax state, that exemption makes Treasuries superior to a high-yield savings account on an after-tax basis even when the headline interest rate looks similar. The practical approach for managing liquid savings through Treasuries is a ladder, meaning you stagger purchases across multiple maturity dates. A portion of the portfolio matures and converts back to cash every few weeks, while the rest continues to earn interest. The money never fully locks up, the yield stays competitive, and the tax advantage compounds quietly in the background every year. The third vehicle is the Series I Savings Bond, which is inflation indexed and issued directly by the U.S. Treasury. The composite rate for I bonds issued through April 2026 has been 4.03%, according to Treasury Direct, and that rate adjusts every 6 months based on the official Consumer Price Index, by design. The yield tracks inflation. The purchasing power of your principal is preserved regardless of what happens to interest rates in the broader economy. Individuals can purchase up to $10,000 per Social Security number per calendar year through Treasury Direct. A married couple can purchase $20,000 combined annually. The money must be held for a minimum of 12 months before redemption, and if you redeem within 5 years, you forfeit the 3 most recent months of interest. After 5 years, there is no penalty. For money you will not need for at least a year, I bonds represent the only instrument in the American financial system that is legally guaranteed to keep pace with inflation under all economic conditions. Finance Explained has talked about inflation risk across multiple videos, and I bonds are the direct structural answer to that specific problem. The fourth option is brokered certificates of deposit, available through brokerage platforms like Fidelity, Charles Schwab, and Vanguard. These are not the same as the CDs your local bank offers. When you purchase a brokered CD through one of these platforms, you gain access to CD offerings from hundreds of banks simultaneously rather than being limited to what a single institution puts on its counter. As of March 2026, the best available brokered CD rates were sitting in the range of 3.5 to 4.3% depending on the term. According to data from the street, Schwab's own research has specifically made the case that most Americans are leaving money on the table by looking only at their local bank CD menu. The structural advantage for anyone with a balance above $250,000 is significant. Through a single brokerage account, you can spread your funds across multiple issuing banks, each providing up to $250,000 of FDIC protection. A retiree with $500,000 in liquid savings can achieve full federal insurance coverage across every dollar through a single account interface without opening accounts at multiple banks separately. There are 3 specific financial events that create the highest level of compliance exposure for ordinary Americans, and each one arrives at a moment in life when people are least prepared to deal with the consequences. Understanding them in advance is the difference between a smooth financial transition and a federal flag that follows you for 5 years. The first is the required minimum distribution. Under current IRS rules, anyone who holds a traditional IRA, ASCP IRA, a simple IRA, or a 401,000 must begin taking mandatory annual withdrawals starting at age 73 or age 75 for those born in 1960 or later under the Secure 2.0 Act. Missing the deadline carries a penalty of 25% of the amount that should have been withdrawn, according to the IRS directly. These distributions, which often range from $15,000 to $40,000 per year depending on the account balance, are calculated by dividing your prior year-end account balance by an IRS life expectancy factor. That formula produces a specific dollar amount that arrives as a large deposit into whatever account you designate. If that account is your primary retail checking account, and your bank has no prior history of large incoming transfers on your file, the compliance software flags the deposit immediately. The straightforward solution is directing your required minimum distribution to a high-yield savings account or brokerage account that is already established and has received transfers of meaningful size before the first REM arrives. The account should exist and have transaction history before you need it, not after. The second high-risk event is a pension lump sum election. Many Americans reaching retirement age are offered a choice between a monthly annuity and a one-time lump sum payment from their pension plan. The maximum benefit guaranteed by the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation in 2026 is $93,477 annually for most people retiring at age 65, according to Fidelity's published pension guidance. But the lump sum alternatives to those monthly payments can easily reach $200,000, $300,000, or $500,000, depending on the plan. A transfer of that size arriving in a retail checking account creates an immediate and significant compliance event. The bank sees a deposit that bears no relationship to any prior transaction in your account history. The compliance software does not know it is a pension rollover. It knows it is an anomaly, the correct destination. For a pension lump sum in 2026 is a brokerage account at Fidelity, Charles Schwab, or Vanguard, which are structurally built for large transactions, are not running the same retail compliance algorithms that flag ordinary checking accounts, and allow you to immediately begin distributing those funds across high-yield instruments including brokered CDs currently yielding between 3.5% and 4.5%, government money market funds, and treasury bills. The brokerage account becomes the receiving point. Your retail bank never sees the transfer. The third situation is survivor benefits, and this is the one that creates the most damage because it arrives during the most difficult period of a person's life. Life insurance payouts, Social Security lump sum adjustments, and retirement account beneficiary distributions often land in a surviving spouse's account within weeks of a death in the family. A person who is managing grief and paperwork simultaneously is not in a position to anticipate a compliance review from their bank. But the bank's software does not pause for bereavement. A surviving spouse who has been receiving $2,000 per month in combined Social Security deposits, and who suddenly receives a $100,000 life insurance payment into that same account, has generated exactly the kind of income-to-deposit discrepancy that compliance algorithms are specifically trained to identify. The preparation for this is not complicated. Establishing a separate account at a different institution before any anticipated large deposit is the most protective step available. The deposit goes to the prepared account. The primary retail bank never sees it. Now, step back and look at the full picture of what this means in practical terms. The Federal Reserve's own survey of consumer finances found that the average American family held approximately $62,000 in their checking accounts. As of 2026, that balance is earning 0.07%. Bankrate's own analysis found that moving from a 0.01% savings account to a 4.5% high-yield account on just $10,000 saves approximately $449 annually in lost purchasing power. Scale that to $60,000. And you are looking at roughly $2,700 per year, generated from money that is already saved, already sitting there, already yours, simply parked in the wrong place. And according to data published by AOL Finance drawing on Federal Reserve figures, the average checking account is earning approximately 43 times less than the current rate of inflation. Not 4 times less, 43 times less. The first action that makes a real difference is also the simplest. Open one high-yield savings account this week at an online bank. Not because it requires you to become a sophisticated investor, but because it requires you to do nothing except move money that was already sitting idle into an account paying 10 times more on the exact same balance with the exact same federal insurance coverage. Transfer everything above your 2-month expense cushion out of your primary checking account. Start a treasury bill ladder with the portion of your savings you will not need for 3 to 12 months. Route any anticipated large incoming deposits to a brokerage account or high-yield account rather than your retail bank. Document every large transaction before it arrives. Keep the bill of sale, the insurance statement, the pension election letter, whatever establishes the legitimate origin of the funds. That documentation is what stops a compliance flag from turning into a federal report. Finance Explained makes these videos for one reason. The information in this video has existed for years. The accounts have existed for years. The rules have not changed in any way that benefits the person with money sitting in a checking account earning nothing while a bank lends it out at 8, 9, 10%. The only thing standing between your savings and the rate they should be earning is the decision to look. If this video changed the way you think about where your money actually sits, drop a comment below and tell us the one thing you are going to do differently this week. Share this with someone you know who still has more than $30,000 sitting in a retail checking account. They may not even know this conversation is happening. Now they can.